Yeah. So, all right, we got people coming in, so we're gonna just put up everyone's Twitter handles here real quick for everyone to see. So we have Wildlife Boegehold, Anna at Boeg is the best way to look at that, and then Donna's Twitter handle is D at KAS. Make sure I get this right. HIAN. And then for any of this, if you don't catch this live or want to be able to watch it later, you can go to wildlifeboegehold.com, and it has links to YouTube, Periscope, SoundCloud if you want to do the podcast of this later to be able to see everything. So with that, I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm Nicole Wood. I'm Wildlife Boegehold on Twitter, and I really like doing SciComm, and so anytime I can go out and actually talk to people and meet folks, it's always great. So we have a couple Great Lakes scientists here from Wayne State University, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Donna Kashian, professor at Wayne State University and visiting scientist at NOAA. Study invasive species, aquatic toxicology, and pathogens in the environment.
My name's Anna Boegehold. I'm one of Donna's PhD students, starting my third year, and I study Dreissenid mussel reproduction in response to cyanobacteria.
So maybe get a little bit into what Wayne State is. Tell us about Wayne State, what research goes on here at Wayne State.
So Wayne State is a university in Michigan. It's in Detroit, so it's an urban university. We have a lot of different programs. Our ecology program at Wayne State has a lot of different things going on. One of the things I like most about Wayne State is the collaborations also outside of the department with civil engineering, the medical school, an environmental science program. So a lot of our ecology programs benefit from a very interdisciplinary program. For example, I teach in pharmacy school every summer to the pharmacy students, and one of the co-lecturers of a class that has about 5 or 6 lecturers. One's from engineering, one's from pharmacy, one's from the law school, myself, and a couple others. And on pharmaceutical, my component is what happens once pharmaceuticals from agricultural use and human use end up in the environment. And then we have a law professor who talks about legal ramifications of it. So a lot of the stuff we do here is interdisciplinary. A lot of very cool research going on. And as a student, how do you like being at Wayne State?
I really like being in Detroit. I think urban ecology is something that's on the rise. Every year when I go to conferences, I feel like I hear more and more urban ecology studies. So I think we're situated in a really good spot for that. Another thing I really like about Wayne State is we have a very diverse student body, and that's something that's one of my ongoing goals is to kind of promote diversity in ecology and to make ecology a comfortable place for everyone who wants to study it. So I like teaching a diverse group of students. I like being around a diverse group of people, and I just like the urban area. We're so close to the Detroit River too, so.
Yeah, I have a question. Like, since you are dealing with such an urban public here, do you feel like you have to do more education in your outreach just to bring them up to speed with maybe, say, like I'm from the west side of Michigan, and so we spend a lot of outside time. We're always out, on the lakes over there, or just out doing hiking and things like that. And so I feel like we kind of were brought up and have like that base knowledge of ecology, with our experiences out there. Do you feel like you have to like bring up the learning curve, like it's a steeper learning curve that they have here that you've got to bring them back up to speed?
So I've worked with, we have a couple nonprofit groups in the city of Detroit. Urban farming is a big thing that's ongoing here. As people probably have heard about Detroit, there's some vacant lots and abandoned properties that people have been turning into urban and community gardens. And one of those groups is called the Greening of Detroit, and they plant trees in blighted neighborhoods. And another program that they do, it's called Our Land program, and I forgot what the acronym stands for, but they basically do educational outreach to elementary school and middle school students in Detroit. So I've worked with them. We've gone out on the Rouge River and taught kids about watersheds and stuff. So I feel like there are certain groups that are trying to integrate like environmental learning for students, but I think at the public school level it might not be there yet.
Yeah, and as a lab and many other labs, we do a lot of classroom presentations. We've had students both come into our lab and actually work with our graduate students. We've gone out to schools, so you're still seeing that. I think in an urban setting anywhere, you're going to have some people who are urbanites and they live in the urban environment. They don't get out in nature as much. So I think you're going to get that even on the West Coast within cities.
Right, yeah, for sure.
And the school systems, obviously the teachers, they're coming to us and asking us to talk in their classrooms. So there's an attempt to bring a lot of ecology and environmental programs. There's always teachers contacting us, so many that we turn them away. Other professors I know are doing the same thing. And we also have the river monitoring groups that students are involved with. Both the graduate students and you see locals participating in those groups, and they're very fanatic about their health of their rivers, so you do have a lot of community engagement. There's never a shortage in Detroit of community, people wanting to do community work.
Okay.
We do a lot of work on the Detroit River, and we have numerous people volunteering, again, so many that sometimes we can't take everyone we'd like to. In any aspect of work on the Detroit River. We do a lot with fish consumption advisories and fishing, and whenever we say we need someone to help us get some fish, there is never a shortage of people wanting to go get us fish. So it's been good. But yes, you do, even at the university level teaching, you do get students who think there's sharks in the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
And, so there's a variety. But,
well, I did just learn the other day that bull sharks apparently go all the way up to the Twin Cities, which I didn't know they went up that far. So like I knew they would go up the Mississippi, but never
that's
completely that far. So and I learned that from a professor that I know on Twitter that does bull shark research, and so it was just so
it's possible,
right? It is possible, highly unlikely, but it is possible. So I mean it's you're learning new things every day with stuff like that, and so even someone like us, where we know more about science, there's always still those things to learn, and it's even just the simple things of science that someone else might think, well, yeah, of course they aren't there.
Yeah.
If you were never exposed to it, how would you ever have known that?
Right.
And so it's trying to, I think, find a way too of educating them, but not belittling people as you're educating them. Like make sure that you're teaching them in a way that makes them want to come back and have fun and learn more.
It's just that they're not exposed to it. It's nothing to do with intelligence or the teacher's faults. It's all just exposure.
Exactly.
So, But on the other hand, fishing is huge. Like in Detroit, people will line the Detroit River to fish every summer.
All right.
So fishing's huge. So some people do grow up fishing in the rivers, and we have a lot of other smaller streams that aren't as big as the Detroit River that people go on to. And actually, so because, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of vacant lots and properties, there are a lot of wildlife kind of coming back into those areas. I was in class with someone who lives on the west side of Detroit, and she was telling me how all of these birds of prey that gather around her house, because there's a field next door, and so there'll be a lot of mice and rodents, and that attracts the birds of prey. There's a local pheasant population in Detroit.
Really?
So you'll be driving down the road and a pheasant will just run across the street. So it's here.
One of the biggest challenges of being at Wayne State, I think, and being in the urban setting, is maybe perception of what people think Detroit is, and maybe thinking coming out to do an ecology program at Wayne State wouldn't give them what they want. The reality is, we have people, Donna Kashian, my husband actually, he does research out in Yellowstone, so the students come out and have the opportunity to go to Yellowstone. We're, as visiting partners with NOAA Glurl, the Great Lakes Environmental Research Lab, we have students all the time with us that go out on the big ships on the Great Lakes, the research vessels. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, when people are applying to Wayne State that they don't realize exist. And some of our research, we have 26 streams we monitor up in the UP, so every year we head up there in a very remote setting. So we're still doing it, we do the urban research, but we're still doing it and all over the place too.
Yeah, I got to go to Puerto Rico last summer.
Nice.
To do a teaching workshop, and that was something that, because Donna knows someone from her PhD in Wisconsin that is a professor in Puerto Rico, and they have a grant to bring people down, so I was able to go do that. So there's a lot of great opportunities.
That's a win for networking right there.
Yeah,
You know, yeah.
That one worked out well. I'm looking for anyone doing research in Portugal or Italy.
Yeah.
If I could get New Zealand or Australia would be good too. I would be good with that. So
yeah, a lot of scary things. A lot of big spiders.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know a researcher down in Australia that does a lot of UAS or drone work down there, and I keep threatening that I'm going to come and just show up on her door at some point in time. So
Why not?
yeah, but with being really basically you're right on the Great Lakes here. Do you find that you have more opportunities then because you are so close? Because like I'm from Central Michigan University,
Right.
and while we're centrally located to everything, it also means that we're a good 2 hours away from everything. So to go out and do any sort of Great Lakes coastal research and stuff, you're having to make a haul there and back just to do your
Right.
field work. So you find that doing your field work is a little easier because you are so close to.
Probably a lot easier.
Okay.
And it's not only that. I think Southeast Michigan, we have a lot of resources. We have NOAA in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
There's an EPA group, Lake St. Clair Shores, I think is their office. Michigan State's not that far away. Oakland University has researchers there. U of M, Lawrence Tech. So we have a huge pool to collaborate with in a very short distance. And getting out, depending on which lake you want to go to, Lake Erie, we can enter Lake Erie through ports in Ohio, and that's only 40 minutes away, and so it's really close. We can enter. We take a lot of our students out on a Sea Grant vessel. Both for teaching, they do 11-year-olds and they do college students, and we just dock right out on the Detroit River. And so we have opportunities. I think I can take, when I have an aquatic class, I can take my students out on the Great Lakes almost effortlessly.
Okay.
So that's a huge bonus to be right here. And just
Canada's right there.
Oh yeah, that's another University of Windsor. We have a lot of collaborators there, and even though it's Canada, it's actually closer to us than Michigan State.
Right.
It's closer than U of M.
Yeah.
So it's very easy. Challenges transporting samples across border occur once in a while,
Okay.
but we work through those and get the proper permits. So it's a really good situation for us.
We also have access to a lot of citizen collected data too, because we have like the Rouge River and the Huron River and the Clinton River, which are 3 of the major watersheds in the area. They do citizen science monitoring twice a year. They'll collect macroinvertebrates and do river cleanup. So they have years of data that they are, more than happy to let us use if we need it too.
Mhm.
So it's kind of nice.
So what research are you guys working on? Like, what's the big project that you're dealing with right now?
Our lab has quite a few. I'll let Anna go last, so I'll run over some of the other projects in lab first. We have a student that's sitting right next to us over here, Ali, working.
Should I throw him on camera real quick just for the fun of it?
Ali.
Yeah, here you go, guys.
You gotta see the transmitter.
Yep. Yeah, show off the transmitter real quick.
So B7 hydroacoustic transmitter made by Benfo, 69 kilohertz. Going to be inserting these in juvenile walleye, tracking their movements in western basin Lake Erie in relation to harmful algal bloom presence and severity.
And so what's great about Ali's project, we talk about collaborations. This is a perfect example of that. We had the receivers donated to us by the Earth Family Foundation, and we have collaborators from Ohio DNR that are taking us out on their ships. NOAA Research is just the other day donated buoys, and we're collaborating with their research on the HABs tracking. So when they track the harmful algal blooms, that way we're able to get out and track the fish as they move around the blooms. So without NOAA's HAB tracking and Tim Davies out of that group, we would be lost without them. And they're right now also fitting one of our receivers to one of their underwater vehicles, and so we're going to actually set that loose at the bottom of Lake Erie and be able to remotely, like an underwater drone, move that across Lake Erie in a grid pattern, trying to find some of our fish that we have transmitters in. So overall, looking for how the juvenile walleye respond to harmful algal blooms. So that's one of the projects that we just got up and running, and we're just starting that, essentially going out in the field for the first time tomorrow. Another project I mentioned briefly was the one up in the UP. For about 10 years, we've had 27 streams in the UP, up by Big Bay, 40 minutes west of Marquette, where there's a mine that went in. It was originally called Kennecott Mine, then it was Eagle Mine, and I don't know the name now. It keeps changing owners. but it's a nickel mine, and they just went into production, I think, for the second year of ore extraction. So we have 8 years preliminary data and 26 streams surrounding the mine, and 2 years of data since extraction began. So we're monitoring those streams for the macroinvertebrate community, looking at the metals and seeing if that's changed any, and a lot of other environmental characteristics. So it's a really nice data set that we have, and so far it's been pretty clear the biggest impact in the system is actually sedimentation from road building for the mine. That we're seeing a lot of the sensitive macroinvertebrates are reducing in numbers. So those are two of the projects. Corey, oh yeah, in addition, Corey, who comes from the UP, also is working on a project looking at round gobies and their how land use essentially may affect goby distribution. So gobies are another invasive species, and she's looking at are there things that make a system more susceptible to invasion. So looking at a lot of environmental characteristics and teaming up multidisciplinary with another researcher, both in the medical school and in our department, looking at genomics to identify genomic markers that may indicate whether a species is more sensitive to invasives coming in and therefore more easily displaced by invasives. Now I'll let Anna talk about her project, which is probably one of the biggest in the lab right now, funding several people in the lab.
Yeah, so I'm working off of a USGS grant, and I'm looking at how cyanobacteria impacts invasive quagga mussel reproduction. Quagga mussels are sister species of zebra mussels, in case people haven't heard of them. They're actually displacing a lot of the zebra mussel populations in the Great Lakes, and they're spreading further out west than some of the zebra mussels are too. So we're looking at those, and I've been looking at spawning, fertilization, and Kareem, our lab manager, has been actually doing sperm motility tracking. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
For that, we weren't expected to be doing that research, so we actually had to go to the med school, who is more experienced with sperm. And so now we're collaborating with the med school to help us track sperm.
Yeah, it's really cool. They have like a video camera set up on a microscope, and then they have software tracking, so they can like track the movement of individual sperm. And yeah, but so I've been looking at spawning and fertilization. I gave a talk about my research at Society for Freshwater Science in Sacramento this year in May on it, and I found that one species. So I have 13 cyanobacteria cultures. There's multiple species, but I also have some that are the same species but just different cultures. So there is a little bit of genetic variability, even within a species. And I found that the culture of a Phanazamenon floss aquae that we have. Donna's laughing.
You want to explain that?
It's a really hard word.
Right, yeah.
So a Phanazamenon floss aquae is one of the 3 big cyanobacteria.
I know, I can't say it all, so.
I have a lot of practice. It's one of the 3 big cyanobacteria species in the Great Lakes. So the first one is Microcystis, which people might be most familiar with. Anna Boegehold is another one, and then a Phanazamenon. I think those might be the 3 biggest harmful algal bloom causing species.
Anna Boegehold is one of the ones that you find a lot in inland lakes too, and a couple years ago was associated with the death of a puppy from drinking the water. So these they can be very serious health threats to, or especially sensitive organisms.
Yeah, because they all are capable of producing toxins.
So these are all the things that, when we hear all the news reports, about the water outside of Toledo and the Great Lakes,
yes.
These are all the things that are causing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I found that a Phanazamenon actually inhibits quagga mussels from spawning. So I do assays using research that actually Jeff Ram did, who's from Wayne State Medical School, and he found that serotonin is a spawning inducer in zebra mussels. So we test the cyanobacteria against the control and induce both sets to spawn using serotonin. And in that situation, a Phanazamenon prevents, so it actually it counters the inducing effect of the serotonin and doesn't allow the mussels to spawn. So that was pretty cool. And then now what we're trying to do, because obviously we don't want to promote cyanobacteria blooms to prevent mussels from spawning, is we're trying to actually isolate what chemical or what exactly is going on that's preventing them from spawning. And the reason why the USGS is interested in this, because this is kind of the basis of how they do their lamprey control. Our contact person, Nick Johnson, worked on his PhD at Michigan State, and they worked to synthesize pheromones from sea lamprey. And that's how they do a lot of their control. They have larval pheromones, so they can attract lamprey to certain areas, and then they also have sex pheromones, and they actually synthesize those artificially. So that's cool, and that's kind of what we're trying to do with zebra mussel and cyanobacteria, is find what chemical cue is causing them to not spawn.
And then you assume then you'll be able to treat the Great Lakes with that particular chemical and hopefully help keep them from spawning.
Well, I think you're not going to be able to treat the entire Great
right,
Lakes.
exactly.
So I think the idea is there's another biocide out there already, Zequinox, and it can be used more in confined settings.
Okay.
Maybe if there's a spot treatment in a lake that has a new initial discovery of it, or if it's around a wastewater treatment facility, a nuclear power plant, where you're trying to keep fouling the zebra mussel attachments off the equipment, using it in spot treatments. So it would be another tool in the arsenal against zebra mussels. And another reason we hadn't really anticipated coming into this, but when we discovered that the cyanobacteria had an effect on the sperm and fertilization, we became concerned for other organisms that are broadcast spawners. So we have that they release the eggs and sperm right into the environment. So we have walleye in the Great Lakes, suckers, and some other species that broadcast spawn. And if the cyanobacteria is inhibiting their sperm, then you could have potentially problems with commercial fishery species. And at first we weren't too worried about it, because harmful algal blooms usually set up in August, and fish aren't typically spawning in that time, during that time. But there's some inland lakes, like Winnipeg, which is in Canada, and other lakes that you're seeing the harmful algal blooms much earlier. And this year, in the watershed, in Lake Erie watershed, we did see blooms occurring in April. So there is a potential now that as blooms move earlier and earlier, that if indeed they're having effects on sperm, they could affect the commercial fisheries if it's occurring on fish too. So this is another avenue we just started working on, in addition to zebra mussels.
Do you think it could also impact the uniatids as well as the dreissenids?
They're not broadcast spawners.
They're not,
so, right. So their reproductive strategy is a bit different. So it's possible there may be mechanisms that they affect that we don't know, because initially when we were looking at it, we weren't targeting broadcast spawners. We were just looking at mussels, and this was serendipity. We discovered this. So it's less likely by the mechanism we're seeing, but it's possible in a different manner.
All right. And do you think maybe it's climate change that's causing the earlier harmful algal blooms to happen, or you're just speculating, or maybe do you think it's some other mechanism or a combination of mechanisms?
It's probably a combination of mechanisms. We have with climate change, climate variability more applicable in this situation. We have changes in waterfall, so we have harder, more intense rains that are causing more overland flow, nutrient inputs coming in harder and faster. When they come in the spring, that is more likely to cause, you get all those nutrients coming into the watershed, into the open waters that contribute to it. So it's the combination of warmer temperatures, reduced winds will allow for a setup of a bloom. That's more of a weather pattern, but could be affected by some aspects of the jet stream. There are warmer temperatures, nutrient inputs coming in, change not only from climate and rainfall and changes in weather events, but also use of those chemicals in the watershed. So it's a combination of a lot of factors that play together. People discuss how the role of zebra mussels have a enhancement effect on these blooms. The zebra and quagga mussels can both selectively feed on healthy, ideally green algae, and so then they reject the cyanobacteria. In doing so, they're pulling the green algae, which are better for the system, and rejecting the cyanobacteria, so giving them more of a competitive edge over the green algae, so helping stimulate those algae blooms even further. So it's a combination of things, but that is most likely a large contributing factor.
Okay. So with talking about fish kills and stuff, when we hear about fish kills, like what kind of numbers are you talking about that you guys see here in Lake Erie when these big events happen, and like how detrimental is that to the fishery, to not only like commercial, but just people when they want to go out and just catch a fish on the weekend?
So right now, I don't think. Well, indirectly, the HABS events, I'm not an expert in this area,
okay.
Are not the leading contributor to the fish kills. I think that's
Okay.
more of a hypoxia situation
Right.
In the open waters of the Great Lakes, but I'm not 100% sure of that. By having a HABS event, you create a situation where you have all these oxygen producers in the daytime, and eventually at night they respire. So they're they're producing CO2,
Right.
and then creating those drops in oxygen. And also when they die and decompose, they're creating respiration. So that's once again pulling down the oxygen levels, which could potentially result in fish kills. But fish kills is not my area, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know even any idea on the numbers of fish kills in Lake Erie.
The other thing I really wanted to talk to you about is iAgler.
Right.
Because you're a co-host
Yeah.
of iAgler, and so you want to give us a preview of what's going to be going on with iAgler 2017?
Yeah, we're pretty excited,
Yeah.
not only for iAgler 2017, but SFS, the Society of Freshwater Science, will be hosting their meeting in Detroit in 2018. So we have two of the nation's largest freshwater meetings being held in Detroit in the next couple of years. So that's really exciting. For iAgler, that's the one up first, and so I think it's going to be a really exciting meeting. We are going to have, it sits right, Cobo Hall is where Cobo Center is, right where the
Tunnel.
Yeah, right at the bridge of Canada and the U.S., sitting right on the Detroit River, the connecting channel of the upper and lower Great Lakes. So it could not be a more fabulous spot to have it. And we're going to have a dinner cruise right on Detroit River headed out into Lake Erie. So one of the banquets will be on the Detroit River. It's perfect for
And that would be a big
associated-
success because Wildlife Society in Pittsburgh, what was it, 2 years ago, they did a river cruise and everybody just loved
of
it.
course they
So
do.
It's the Detroit Princess, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so the Detroit Princess has been around for a while. It's kind of like a famous Detroit river cruise boat. So that'll be fun for people from out of town.
There's going to be I forgot what we were calling it, like a sustainability fish fair dinner one night where it's fish from the Great Lakes and all food sustainable. Just the setup for it at Cobo is everything's going to be in one central location. So to go to a talk, you don't have to go to different buildings. So that's always nice at a conference. And we are going to have housing set up at Wayne State University in the dorms, and Wayne State donated a whole bunch of dorms, so there's going to be dormitories for free. It's going to be for students first, but also often when iAgler is hosted, it's hosted every other year in Canada and the U.S. When it's in the U.S., a lot of the Canadians cannot get travel funds to come to the U.S., and likewise, when it's in Canada, some government agencies won't support large amounts of Americans going over to Canada. We have it set up really nice where it's in the U.S., but we have housing in Canada on the other side of the tunnel, so it'll be a 10-minute, just cross that bridge over into Cobo, so they can spend the night in Canada and have all their housing and paid for in Canada, and then come over during the day to the conference. And so we'll have a shuttle going across the bridge for our iAgler folks in Canada. So that's going to be really nice. For those that live within 40 minutes, like I mentioned earlier, southeastern Michigan is a hot spot, but a lot of government agencies won't support travel outside of 40 minutes of their agency, but so dorms will be used for that. So if you, let's say in Lansing, and that might be like kind of a cutoff, or Ann Arbor, that you can still spend the night in Detroit because we'll have free dorms. You won't have to have that on your travel itinerary. So I think we've done a really nice job setting up some conveniences. The riverfront in Detroit is just absolutely beautiful. There's live music almost every single night. It's just a wonderful place. There'll be the hockey game that will take place, which is an annual iAgler event.
I heard rumors of where it's going to be held, but
no.
would that be,
So people were talking at first that Cobo, Joe Louis Arena is closing up shop. And people were trying really hard to have it at Joe Louis, be the last game ever played at Joe Louis. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
So right now we have another venue set up right in Detroit for that. We're still looking at that, but just from the initial feel, I don't think it's going to be at Joe Louis.
Okay.
But that would have been fabulous.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That would be really cool. Yeah, so I think they want it to be another final game at Joe Louis, not
a whole bunch of scientists.
Exactly. A scientist playing hockey is not what Joe Louis is looking for the Big Bang League. But yeah, so I think it's going to be really good. We have a lot of cool programs set up. We're in the process of right now of setting up the session announcement, which we are putting out probably in the next month. We have a draft of that, and that'll go out at the end of August, beginning of September. So we'll have a list of suggested sessions, but as always, people are welcome to submit a session they'd be interested in having. And the theme of it is from an urban setting to the Great Lakes, so it'll be urban and agriculture meet the Great Lakes. So it'll be a great session.
And for people who are interested in coming to IAGLR or SFS in Detroit and haven't been here, or don't really know much about the city, so Kobo is right downtown, and if you look at any of the news coming out of downtown Detroit lately, it's this great restaurant opened up this week, another one's opening up next week. There's a ton of cool stuff. There's a park called Campus Martius right in the middle of downtown Detroit. There's the
Belle
riverfront.
Isle.
Yeah, there's Belle Isle, which is Michigan's newest state park. There's Hart Plaza, which is another park that's like right on the river, and they do a lot of events there. Like the Detroit Jazz Fest is held there every Labor Day weekend. They do Movement, an electronic festival every Memorial Day weekend. So it's really a cool.
There's something every weekend in Hart Plaza.
Yeah, it's really a cool area to be in, and it's becoming more and more of like a destination. So it should be really fun.
And I would recommend, if you can, bring your bikes, because just from Kobo Hall and the hotels, you can bike to Belle Isle, you can bike a whole bunch of different places, and it's a beautiful bike path that goes along the Detroit River, and great for running. There's kayaking. Again, people think urban, they don't think these outdoor activities, and it's very large.
We have Easter Market, which is, I think,
I've heard of that. I've always been needing to check it out when I'm here. So,
yeah, and you can bike from downtown right to Easter Market too. I think it's like America's longest running outdoor farmers market.
Okay.
So that's really
Farmers
cool.
market galore.
Yeah.
So you said like to bring your bikes. How far is the student housing away from the Kobo Center? I mean, is that bikeable, or is there still going to be more like a shuttle that you're going to want to take?
It's bikeable. Well, they're promising the fast lane, the rail system. Yeah, it's going to be operational then too. We'll probably have a bus system set up too. So there'll be those two options. Biking,
It'd be like a 10-minute bike ride.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know.
So we're at Wayne State, and we're just directly north of downtown.
But it might be one of those areas that I would probably take one of the shuttles or use the light rail to get to, especially coming back late at night. The in-between area right there is one that I personally would pick the rail over. And I mean, just like any urban center, it has areas that are you have to be smart about. I've been at Wayne for 10 years. I've never had an issue in Detroit. I refuse to pay for parking, so I park kind of far away and walk in quite a distance, and I come in early, so I walk in it when it's pitch black, and it's a non-issue because I'm smart, look at my surroundings, just like as if I was in Washington D.C. or anywhere else. The students have never had a problem.
Yeah, I have friends that live right off campus, and they don't have any issues really either. So
the news and people pick up things and they become very large stories, and I think that's the perception people have outside of Detroit. But when you're in Detroit, that's not the feel. That's not
the reality.
Right. And you're smart. I mean, right now we see Pokemon Go players not looking up at all, walking around the city, and I have yet to hear one mugging of a Pokemon Go player in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's the quote of the interview right there.
So I think you can walk around fairly decent. I don't recommend anywhere, but so we haven't hit the news for anything like that.
And the Wayne State Police are really good too. I think we're one of the safest campuses in Michigan, just because our police system's really good, and they also patrol the immediate business area too. So it's not just campus. It's their jurisdiction extends a little bit outside of campus, and their response time is really fast. So if you've heard horror stories about Detroit police response time,
Yeah. But overall, our research, being in an urban setting, we have in environmental science, they have air monitoring systems on a whole bunch of buildings, abandoned buildings, and all over the city, trying to catch mercury and whatever the contaminants in the air. And I know their students are out and about on top of buildings in all areas in Wayne State. In Detroit, we've never had a problem. We collect at Belle Isle weekly during the summer.
Yeah,
we're
sometimes
out.
it's more than weekly.
Yeah, we're out quite a bit, and yeah, it's been good. I have absolutely no complaints, and it'll be IAGLR and SFS will be fun to show the world that, and these Great Lakes scientists, really what Detroit is and what we have to offer, because it's really a cool city to do research in. A lot of opportunities, and being where we are, we had a lot of research that was well suited for urban environments, and when the Flint situation went down, we were able to assist with that pretty much before any other universities, other than ones that discovered it, that were completely out of the region. But we were able to go in on a regular basis. The civil engineering group is there almost daily, taking water samples. Our lab has processed a lot of samples for that, so we're equipped and ready to go when you have that water quality issues that straddle human health and ecological questions. So that's something we really like about being at Wayne State, and that ability.
Yeah, it gives you that quick response time to everything, which is amazing. So
yeah,
and the resources to do it, and the university itself. I was at other universities before I came here, and I just have felt the support the university gives their faculty, the ability to do the research when they need it, and to step in at a moment's notice and do it has been amazing. So the university is very much tied into that urban mission and that creed, so it's not just talk. It's when Flint happened, there were immediate meetings set up. We got all the faculty that was doing anything even remote that we weren't thinking, that people in the news don't realize Legionnaires is one of the issues with the lead crisis, and Wayne State's leader doing the research on Legionnaires, and not just the research, but assisting with water filters, assisting with water, assisting homeowners with looking at the water, giving them results, and that stuff. We've been able to do that, and the faculty doing it and the students doing it are committed. We were asked to do E. coli samples of Flint water, and the number of students that stepped up and said, we want to help, we want to help process samples.
Yeah, we want to volunteer to stay here on a Friday night to do this.
Friday, it was a weekend.
Yeah, come in early Saturday.
Right.
For the E. coli samples, they have to be processed within 24 hours, and the engineer students got us those samples on a Friday night.
Yeah.
So we had students that spent their entire weekend in this lab processing samples through the night and through the day to get those results ready and back to the homeowners immediately. So it was, and I was ready to turn down that project because the logistics and getting people available to do that seemed impossible. And then when I emailed the lab, they're like, hell no, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
So everyone chipped in and we got it
We're really
done.
bad at saying no when someone needs us to volunteer to do something.
Well, and I think there's also too, there's a pride there, and that there's people, citizens of Michigan that are hurting, and being from Michigan, you have that pride of we're part of Michigan here. Whether or not you're originally from Michigan and you're just here, going to school, you become part of Michigan, and once you're here, and so you have that pride of the state, and you want to help out. And
yeah, and I think it's more than that. In Detroit, I think it's stronger. It's I think maybe because the area's been beat down so much, that we're not sitting from a high horse looking down ever. We're part of it. And I think when the opportunity is there that Wayne State, both at the upper management, upper administrative levels, down to the student level, it's personal, it's home, it strikes hard because we see the disproportionate distribution of academics, wealth,
All
and
resources, pretty much.
yeah, and so I don't know, it's different because I feel the heart is incredibly strong, and I've been at other universities. You know, I did my master's, my bachelor's, my postdoc, my PhD. I've worked at other universities, and I've never felt it as strong as I feel in the student body and the faculty here. So that to me is amazing, and it's frustrating a little when like looking for students, is attracting students that are like, oh, Wayne State, it's in Detroit, I don't want to do ecology in Detroit. So I think that's the biggest challenge here. And then once they get there, I don't think I've heard students complain. So it's been good.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's maybe difficult to try to like give them that sense of community and pride that you have. Like it's not until you get here and really see it firsthand that you can truly understand. What
and I think when students interview, they see it pretty quickly. Because they meet with students, they meet with the faculty, and they can see it. So that's nice. And I'm happy with the students I have, so I wouldn't trade them for the world. So.
She's just saying that because she's on camera.
Yeah, we've got her mic'd up.
Yeah, we have a really strong graduate student union here too, which, I think I told you, the vice president of the GEOC, which is the Graduate Employees Organizing Committee, and we fall under the AFT, which is the American Federation of Teachers Union, and we have a really strong union, which has helped graduate students here. You know, we get paid more than other people at universities to teach. We have health insurance and just like a lot of protections in place for graduate students. I think we have a lot more. I'm really lucky that we have such a strong union, that we have benefits that other graduate students don't. And I encourage you, if you are a graduate student at a university who doesn't have a strong union, be a part of that, because especially if you don't have health insurance or, you know, aren't getting paid what you think you should get paid, like you can really rally around that. We're important.
And every one of our PhD students is fully funded. It's a guarantee, so that's a really nice thing, because a lot of universities, the faculty scramble for grants or TA positions, which are in short supply. Our med school, we have tons of TA positions, and then our faculty a lot have grants, so we are able to make the promise of all PhDs fully funded. So that's really been an asset to the program, and it's an asset to the research too, to not have to worry about some things and focus on the research. So I think we get the most of it out of our students that we do have to get that stuff done. So that's good.
Well, if you guys are game, I'm going to open it up for questions. So if you guys want to chat any questions that you have here, we'll see what pops up.
Oh, can I say one more thing?
Sure,
about
how about it? So while you guys are thinking of questions.
So if you're a student coming to IAGLR next year, we're also planning a lot of really cool activities for graduate students. We're going to do an off-site graduate student mixer, and we're also trying to plan a mentor-mentee mixer where graduate students will be paired with established scientists in the field, so you can get feedback from them and network. So
that'd be great. Yeah. I always like to be able. It gives you that like nice one-on-one experience with someone. You can really get their science history and find out what worked for them. What that worked for you. Do they have any ideas of what might be a good way for you to go? And
we tossed around a lot of ideas that were the bigger mentor in a room mixes, and we ended up thinking we're going to go with this kind of more one-on-one focused.
It'll be fun.
Small group.
Well, feel free to fire away with questions.
How does that work? Do they just like pop up?
Oh yeah, so it just pops up just like a little chat bar.
Oh, cool.
So I've been noticing a lot of people seem to be liking the broadcast so far. I've been seeing a number of hearts flying up on the side there. So so all they have to do is just, I'll just show you for example, that you just click right on there, and it'll just pop a heart up when you click right on the screen like that, which is really nice. And then like the chat bar will just show up on the side. So, and it also lets you know like how many people you have watching currently, which is nice. Although I find it's not always accurate, because sometimes I have people saying, "Yeah, I'm watching." It's like, I didn't show you on there. So, if you guys have any questions beyond this, so if you guys aren't thinking of much right now, feel free to tweet any of us. Email would also work, I think, for everyone here. So with that, I think I'm going to get Anna to be able to come back for another chat a little bit later if she's game. Talk a little bit more about her PhD life and things like that. So we're gonna stick you around for a little while longer. So we'll give you a break, and then we're gonna bring you back and talk about PhD life.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
but we'll let Donna go. Oh, here we got a question. How have this is from J.E. Rutter? How have high water levels affected you? So that's a big news thing right now with the Great Lakes water levels going up.
And botulism.
Yes.
Well, botulism has not affected me personally. Botulism in the Great Lakes.
That's more of the west side.
Yeah, our lab hasn't been doing work with botulism. We're doing some pathogen research, but not focused on botulism. In terms of water levels have affected us, and we have a project that I didn't mention that I've been working on for a long time that I should have, on the muck issues up in Saginaw Bay. That's when you have muck, the benthic algae that washes on shore. And we're at a point in our project, this project stemmed, I don't know, it's been a while, 8 years with NOAA was the first one that they had the multiple stressors project, which I was very proud to be part of that, when we were looking at the causes of the interactions of multiple stressors in Saginaw Bay. And one of the problems was identified as muck, and I was one of the team project people on that issue. And since then, we have continued doing that research separate than multiple stressors through a sea grant funded project in Saginaw Bay, where we're trying to take the findings we learned from the multiple stressors project and apply them to management solutions in Saginaw Bay and how to reduce the amount of muck. Muck washes up on shore, this benthic algae, it stinks, people don't want to use the beach, it's slimy, so people don't want to use the beach, aesthetic reasons, and what I found personally with the water level issues is sometimes the locals, they want that problem to go away, and it is most likely that there is no one management solution that is going to make this problem go away. Climate change is most likely having a very large impact on this, warmer water levels. The zebra mussels, which is a climate change, but they've they filter, so they let the light hit the bottom better, so you get benthic algae growth, and lower lake levels have increased muck production in Saginaw Bay, cladophora, and other species. High water levels came at a time where we've been asked to fix the problem of muck on water in Saginaw Bay, and we have higher water levels, so we have less muck production. So hopefully people think that we solved the problem of muck, but the reality is the higher water levels are likely the contributing factor why this year has been a very low muck year in Saginaw Bay. We are still working on management solutions and getting those forward, working with the local stakeholders and agencies, putting together a list on things that could help possibly mitigate the problem, but I think that problem is well beyond any single management effort to reduce muck levels, as demonstrated by higher lake levels this year. So for us right now, lake levels have reduced one of the problems in the Great Lakes region for the Saginaw Bay region by reducing benthic algae deposits.
Do you think? Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I had one person ask me if the Army Corps of Engineers controlled the water levels in the Great Lakes, and yeah, they don't. They do control hydrology and some of the smaller bodies of water, but yeah, no, they don't control Great Lakes water levels.
Do you think high water levels are here to stay for a while? Because they were,
Oh, no.
when they were like saying, you know, a couple years ago with all the water levels dropping off, oh, that's here to stay forever because of climate change, and then all of a sudden they shot back up this year, and everyone kind of feels like some people are eating some of their words. Do you think it's just the general variability
I think
of
you
things?
should never ever say, there's another question.
I just said thanks for the thoughtful answer, thorough answer.
I do think that if you ever say anything in the environment and ecology and climate change that this is the way it is and this is the way it's going to stay, you've made a mistake.
Okay.
We just looking at historical climate, historic water levels, they're never at one level. They're always fluctuating. They can be amplified. You can have trends of increasing, like we're seeing now with temperatures and stuff like that. Lake levels, it's the same thing. You have ups and downs. Right now we're in an up. I'm certain we are going to have more periods of down. And most likely there's going to be climate change influences on those levels of down that we see a trend. But we are going to see higher lake levels. And then, you know, with climate change and climate variability, looking at it, we keep we're criticized, scientists are criticized a lot because we don't have all the answers. But the reality is understanding a process such as the Earth's climate is not simple. You have the physicists, you have ocean circulation patterns, you have the jet stream changes, you have a lot of things that we learn more about every year. And with that, we learn more and we're able to make better predictions, but the Earth has a way of throwing challenges at us all the time, and those are going to continue, and we're never going to have all the answers, and it's ridiculous to think we are, and Congress and other groups can pick up on the little pieces they want to and use that against understanding where climate change is a reality, and fluctuations are a reality, and I would hesitate to ever point the finger and blame anyone for misjudgment on the facts they had at that given time, but they should also be careful never to say that this is a pattern that's going to be the way it is from here on out. So.
Any other questions anybody has? Anything to deal with Great Lakes, Iagler, harmful algae blooms, all good to go here. So if not, we'll get this wrapped up and we'll let Donna head on out. So it's great to give us all the time that she has. So we'll be back on a little bit. I'll announce when exactly we'll be back on. And until then, I'll put this all up for our users so you guys can get a hold of us on Twitter. And then to be able to catch all of this later, just go to Wildlife BioGal and you should be able to find all the links to the YouTube video of this and also the podcast as well. So with that, I'll let you guys go. Thank you for listening in, and make sure that if you have any other questions that you guys get a hold of us.
Thank you.
Have a good one.